Getting started in a small business is far more work than I ever thought it would be. Is it worth it? Yes, but it's a lot of work. And sometimes you just feel like you're out there on a limb and you don't know where to go, and there's a lot of questions. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you today about, is all the different questions. Hi, I'm Lisa with Candles by Sincerely Ice Blue. On this channel, we talk all about the business of making candles, selling candles, and all of the everything in between. And I always say it, but there is so much in between, so much in between. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, become part of the family. Click on the little bell just so you get reminded on when new videos post. I've been trying to post 1 to 2 a week, and it all just depends on my travel schedule. So let's just get started and talk about some different things today. There's a lot of questions when it comes to this business. There's a lot of questions when it comes to any business. But getting started in candles has far more questions than I ever thought possible. Questions are good. It's the only way we learn is by asking questions. So I always encourage you to ask questions, ask them of other candle makers, drop them in the comments, shoot me emails, and follow me on Insta and send me messages there. So the way I want to start today is actually answering a couple questions that I have received in my emails and in my message box on Facebook and Instagram. So what I want to do is answer a couple personal questions that people have asked me, but also address some of the business questions. And the business questions aren't just questions that people have asked me, but one of the best ways to learn when you're getting started is to join as many different forums as you can on the Facebook community. There are a lot of beginner candle classes, Candle 101. I'm going to put a couple of them up here so that you can jot them down. And if you're not part of them already, get involved with them on Facebook. So what I did is just kind of looked through the different forums that I'm part of and looked for questions that are most commonly asked, and thought we could talk about those today. And again, a couple personal questions. So let's get started. Okay, question number 1 in the personal realm is, I love your tats. Where did you get them all? So I get that a lot. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, relocated to New Orleans in 2016, and then Hurricane Ida displaced my family and myself to Conroe, Texas, which is where I am now. And we spent 2 weeks here and fell in love with the area. So my tattoos are about 80% from different artists in the Cleveland, Ohio area, but I do have a handful of them. Most of the ones actually on my arms are from artists in New Orleans. Anyway, that's that. So enough about my tattoos. Next question. What does your store name mean? Good question. One of my very first videos, I chatted about that a little bit. And when you're starting your business, you have to create your brand. You have to figure out your why. Why are you doing this? What's driving you to start a business? Sincerely Ice Blue really just has to do with the way I try and live my life. As a kid and a younger adult, I will just say I was a little bit of a rebel and a troublemaker. So over the years, as you get older, and I know you're rolling your eyes if you're younger, and if you're around my age, you're nodding yes. The older you get, you just kind of start figuring out really what's important to you. And for me, one of those things has been to be sincere. Just be sincere. Be kind, be sincere, live your life, which is why at the end of every one of my videos, I always sign off by saying, be sure to live your life out loud, because that's just kind of me. So on my website, one of the things I have is live in moments that matter. And as technology has taken over, go out to dinner. You just see everybody doing this and they're on their phones, and people just don't even socialize anymore. We forget to live in the moment. We forget to live in moments that matter. We forget to be sincere. And that's where that comes from. The Ice Blue, long story short, I began taking Taekwondo in Cleveland, Ohio. And the school I go to or went to, all the students get a nickname. So my nickname became Ice. And then Blue was added onto that because one of my former managers started calling me Ice Blue because my eyes are so blue. And so that's where that came from. So sincerely, Ice Blue. That's that. Okay, this one made me laugh. Why are you a Browns fan when you live in Texas? Go Texans. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I have to be a Browns fan. So, woof woof. No, don't ever say it that way. But I'm not going to bark for real right now. And I know my team is doing really bad again, as usual this year. So, moving along. How much time per day do you spend on your business? That depends on how much time I have. And in one of my other videos, I talk about the importance of time management and blocking out your day. And I'm going to tell you, it's really hard. I mean, think about your life as a whole. We just don't have time to do everything. There's just not enough hours in the day. And if you've got a family and a job and kids or animals and friends and you're trying to exercise and make dinners and shop and pay bills and everything you got to do, where in the world do you fit running a business in? And what I'm going to tell you is I spend as much time as I can without trying to get burnt out. I did go a couple weeks where literally all I did was my day job and candles, day job, candles, day job, candles. I started getting really nasty and angry because I had zero work-life balance. So depending on how you want to run your business is going to depend on how many hours a day you need to spend. Me, myself, and I try and spend between 2 to 4 hours a day. Some days it's less, some days it's none, some days it's 8. And it just depends on what I have on my plate and what I need to get done. Okay, so let's start talking about some of the business stuff. Another question I received was, why won't Candlemakers tell me about, and then there was a whole list of stuff. But it was, why won't Candlemakers tell me about what wick I should be using, what wax I should be using, the details on any blends that they're doing. And is it because they don't want to give away their secrets? Well, yes and no. And I'm going to combine this one with another question I see a lot in the forums. And that is testing really necessary? The answer is 100% yes. Testing is probably the most important part of this whole business, because without testing, you could be creating candles that are dangerous. You could be putting just a tremendously poor product out there. And let's face it, the only way customers come back is if they like your product. So it's not that Candlemakers don't want to tell you or give you advice, but you kind of have to figure it out on your own, because when it comes to the wicks and the wax and the fine details, a lot of that is personal preference. Because do you want to use soy or coconut or apricot or paraffin? That's personal. You have to decide, again, what it is you're offering in your line. And nobody can tell you what's the best thing to use other than their personal opinion. So this is all opinion. But when it comes to the wicks and the fragrances and all the fine details, should I mix beeswax with my soy? And if so, how much? Well, again, it's all relevant. And you're going to see this if you're just starting out with a lot of other videos from Candlemakers. And I have a couple of videos where I talk about that. And some of the Candlemakers that have been in business for years have wonderful, wonderful instructional videos about that. And I can remember starting out, and it was frustrating. I would sit there with my book and my pen and be feverishly, easy for you to say. I would be sitting there feverishly taking notes and thinking, okay, they're going to tell me, they're going to tell me, they're going to tell me, and they wouldn't tell me. And it took me a while to kind of understand it's not because they're afraid that I'm going to steal their ideas or their customers because I'm in Texas, they're in California. That's not it. It's you have to put your dues in. You have to develop your product. This is your business. And you're not buying a McDonald's franchise where they tell you, okay, here's a business plan, here's everything you have to do, you do it exactly like this, and you can have a franchise. You're starting your own business, which means you have to come up with your own everything. And I'm going to tell you the best way to do it is trial and error, testing. But also, once you pick the wax that you want to use, you want to reach out to the supplier of that wax and talk to them. Once you've picked out your vessels, they'll talk to you about the best wicks to try. And I'm going to be doing a video on wicks because, again, that's another thing. If I go to the Flaming Candle and I look up their wax and I look up the jars and I look up their wick chart, you're going to see that there's a ton of wicks I can use for a 2 to 3 inch diameter candle. How do I know which one's going to work? It's going to depend on your wax and your fragrance and your additives and your vessel and all kinds of other factors. So you have to test. So it's not that people won't tell you. It's just that they can't tell you. They can only give you suggestions, and you've got to work from that and develop your own brand and your own candles. Let's see, here's another one. What should I price my candle? Well, there's a lot of different opinions on that. My recommendation personally, do your research. You want to go to local shows in your area and farmers markets and look on Etsy and where are you going to sell? And you can kind of gauge what other people are selling at. But the way you're really going to price your candles in a simple nutshell is you have to know what your candle costs to make. You have to know what your candle costs to make. So you've got to track the fragrance oil, the wick, the additives, the vessel, and you want to throw your time in there. How much time does it take you to make a candle? Once you figure that out, a good rule of thumb from other candle makers that I've learned from is take that cost times 4 if you're selling retail, take that cost times 3 if you're selling wholesale. So don't underprice yourself because you feel like you're a newbie. Don't underprice yourself because you're feeling insecure. Price yourself for what you're worth, what those candles are worth, and what it costs you. You're hand pouring a candle. You're not a big box company with all kinds of machines that are doing it for you. You're a person in your home pouring a candle by hand and creating it with love and care and attention. That's going to cost a little bit more than the big box places. It's going to cost a little bit more than going to Target and buying a $7 candle. Just saying. Okay, next. How long do I need to cure my candles for? Great question. The waiting is the hardest part. It is so hard to wait, but you have to do it. And I have a shelf right here next to me in my office that when I pour a candle and I'm going to test it, it sits here. Minimum I'm going to tell you is you should do it for 2 weeks. Should do it for 2 weeks. I know it's horrible. It's horrible. Waiting is so hard, especially when you pour them and they come out beautiful and they smell so good. But you have to, because best practice is I need to give that candle time for everything in there to bind together and work together as a system. Again, lots of videos out there. So just think of it as 2 weeks. Some say 3. Can you do it in less? Yes. Should you? No. My opinion. Okay. What temperature should I melt and pour my wax at? Again, this is all dependent on what wax you're using. And my suggestion is once you pick out your wax, do your research on that wax. Read the customer comments, read the reviews, touch base with the candle supplier and find out what do they recommend. And you're going to find that that's all over the place. So that goes back to why won't candle makers tell me? They can't. So you might follow somebody else's instructions, but you get no hot throw or you get sinkholes. But their candles are beautiful. Why aren't yours? Well, there's a whole lot of other variables in there. So test, trial, error. Test, trial, error. Don't give up though. The good news is you will get it. Okay, next question. How much inventory do I need to get started? Again, lots of variables there. Get started how? Are you looking to just sell like to friends and family? Do you want to create a website? Do you want to sell on Etsy? Do you want to go to farmers markets? Again, lots of variables. And again, that goes back to why won't candle makers tell me? We can't, because it depends on what you want to do with that. And I can tell you, you can get started with one. You can put up one candle on your Facebook page and you can start selling that to family and friends. You can add more candles as you go. But if you want to create a storefront, you probably want to have more inventory. Rule of thumb I've heard is anywhere from 6 fragrances to 10. And maybe different size vessels. If you're going to go to market and you're going to go do a show, it's going to depend on the size of the show. Maybe if I'm just going to my local church bazaar, I can just go with a couple scents. But let's say I'm going to something big where it's a weekend event, there's going to be 500, 1,000, 2,000 people there. Now I need a much larger amount of inventory to go. So again, join those forums, find out what's going on in your community, talk to other candle makers, especially in your area, get a feel for the foot traffic and what's going on, and you'll know what's best for you. But I'm going to tell you, don't think you can't start a business with one candle or one scent, because you can. You just have to do what's right for you. There's that. Okay, next. Do I need insurance? Yes, you must have insurance. Why? Because what you're selling is a liability. What if somebody buys your candle and their child whacks it off the table or their dog's tail knocks it off the table and it catches a house on fire? People are sue happy today, unfortunately. So you have to protect yourself. You're not getting the insurance for the customer. You're doing this to protect yourself, your life, and your business. And a lot of people on the forums are asking, who do you use? I've started getting pricing. I've got a couple different quotes. I have State Farm, Liberty Mutual. Just start checking around in your area and start getting quotes. A great place to start sometimes is with your car insurance companies or your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance companies. And if they can't, I know a lot of them will refer you to somebody else. One thing you definitely need to do is make sure you have product and general liability insurance. So again, lots of videos out there. Do your research because you need to see what's right for your business in your area. And again, that's a disclaimer. I am not a legal professional. I'm not an attorney. I can't advise you. All I can do is give you my opinion that you probably should do it. Okay. So the next one is a customer said that the smell was weak in the room that they're burning their candle in, but at my house it was strong. And that's again from a forum I was in. And when you're just starting out, you really don't realize that candles are all different sizes. So if I have a candle of this size, and this is a 3 1/8 inch diameter candle, this candle is not necessarily going to fill up my living room. And I know when I first lit that candle and I started in this business, I thought, oh, it's a big candle. It should fill up my kitchen and my eating area and maybe into the living room. Not at all. Even though to me, I thought it was a bigger candle, it's really not. That candle, though, scent-wise, fills up my office or a bathroom or the guest bathroom or my husband's office. So if you're doing testing and it filled up your room might not be the same size as their room. The ceilings in their house might be higher. They might have a different airflow through their house. There's a whole lot of variables when it comes to candles. Crazy as it seems, it smells different to everybody, by the way. I also did a video where I chatted about that the receptors in your body smell differently. Just like you see differently, you smell differently. So you might think it's strong, they don't think it's strong. So if a customer tells you that, you definitely want to address their concerns and you want to work with that customer because we want to make sure we have happy customers. But if you've been testing and you're getting good feedback and one customer says that for them it's not strong enough or whatever, just take that as their personal feedback and their personal preference. That's my opinion on that. Okay, here's one. How do I take pictures? What do I need to be able to take professional pictures? And I have some different props. I have a basket in my office with all kinds of different flowers that I've gotten, and I usually get them on clearance at like Michael's and Hobby Lobby and Dollar Store. And I have a piece of wood that I bought that looks like a tree cut in half that I use like as a stand. I have some different cloths and ribbons. So I take them myself and I use my iPhone and I use it in portrait mode. And then I use just different props. So for some of my autumn stuff, I've got some little pumpkins that sit in the background. I've got greenery and some different leaves and flowers, but you can do anything. One of my friends, she sets them up on a nice candle holder, and then she has a different colored cloth in the front, and then if it's like a autumn scent, she might sprinkle candy pumpkins or candy corn around it. So it's going to be what's pleasing to your eye. And my recommendation is if you have an iPhone, definitely do it in portrait mode, and that works really well because it'll tell you go closer, step back. And then once you take the pictures, you can, crop them and center them and make them look really nice and professional. I also have an app on my phone called Facetune. And I can't remember what the cost was for a membership for a year, but it's kind of a fun app. I can actually upload pictures, and I'm not really good at retouching or doing anything, but it's got things on there that'll say like autocorrect, and depending on how good you are with that kind of stuff, I just use the autocorrect. So when my pictures wash me out, it makes my skin tones look better, your eyes look brighter, but you can clean up backgrounds and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So that's about the photos. And always take your own photos or pay somebody to take photos of your products. Never, ever, ever, ever use anybody else's photos as your own. Always use yours because you don't want somebody stealing your work, so don't steal or borrow theirs. So next question. I see this one a lot. And I've actually had a couple different questions asked of me too regarding labels. And the biggest question is how to design them. Should I print them at home? What do I print them on? How do I print them? And there's a lot of different websites out there that you can use specifically for labels. So for instance, if I buy an Avery label, and you can just buy them right off of Amazon, and Avery on the outside of their packaging will have a number. I can take that number, go to Avery's website, and it'll bring up a template. And because I already purchased their labels, I can design my label, I can download it, save it, and then I can put it in my printer and print it. Now, what happens if you don't have a home printer, but you really don't want to invest in paying somebody to print them yet? You can actually just design them yourself, download them, put them on a jump drive, or put them in your email. You can go to a Walmart, you can go to a local print shop, and they can print them for you. It's going to be a little pricier than designing pre-printed labels, but again, if you're just getting started, one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to design and redesign and change your label probably a couple times. I know that I had started out with one label, thought I loved it, changed all my labels, redesigned them, and redesigned them again. And that's going to happen because you're getting started, you're rebranding, and you're going to start looking at other people's ideas and thinking, oh, I like that better, or maybe mine has too much on it, or you're going to realize you left something off. And again, I'm going to recommend that you watch videos on YouTube specifically about labels and what you need to have on your labels. There's a whole lot of information you legally have to have on your label. So I'm not going to get into all that specifically. Watch the videos. The place I found online that I like using is called Online Labels. And I will also drop the link here for you. But they have a really cool feature too that if you buy their labels, you can use their Maestro label designer and design all kinds of labels and save them. And your membership is good for, I think, a year once you start buying their labels. And I've been designing all of my labels, from my tarts to the tins to the candles to even my business cards. And you can buy from them like as little as a couple sheets or a whole pack or a whole box. Another question that gets asked a lot, and I know I was confused about this when I started, is that the vessel will say that the fill weight is 10 ounces. So you're going to measure 10 ounces of wax, you're going to put your fragrance oil in, and you're going to pour it, and your candle's going to overflow. Why? I'm going to tell you that the best person you should watch is Erica at Memory Box Candle Co. She has the best, the absolute best candle math video that I have found out there that made it make perfect sense. So basically, in a nutshell, what you're going to learn how to do is you have to take that fill weight. So let's say it does hold 10 ounces of wax. Let's say that's what it holds. But now I have to put my additives. I have to put my fragrance oil in. I have to put my coloring in if that's what I'm putting in. And anything else I'm putting in that candle is going to increase the weight or the volume of that wax. So if my wax is 10 ounces, but I'm putting in, let's just say, an ounce of fragrance, now I'm at 11 ounces, which is going to cause that jar to overflow. So you have to learn how to do what is called candle math. So I'm going to tell you again, go look up Erica's videos specifically on candle math, and she's with Memory Box Candle Co. And easiest math, I am horrible with math, but she breaks it down in such a way that I totally get it and it makes sense. So anyway, that's why if you're just starting out and you poured your wax and you added your fragrance oil, your candle overflowed. So that's the basics there. Two more questions. Second to last one is, where do I buy? Where do I buy oils? Where do I buy vessels? Where do I buy my wax? You're going to want to do your research on this too. And one question I didn't answer yet that somebody asked me is, what's one thing I would change from when I started in making candles? And I wish I would have started purchasing more from a supplier that is closer to me. I'm in Conroe, Texas, and the closest one to me is 3.5 hours, Lone Star Candle Co. And I have a lot of product behind me, from the Flaming Candle, California Candle Supply, Candle Science, and the shipping will just bite you. Their shipping is expensive. I know I just ordered one pack of Eco Wicks and 1 pack of CD Wicks, and the wick cost was $17 and some change, and my shipping was $13. So it's going to come down to your preference. What do you want to use? What kind of wax? What do you want your vessels to look like? And what kind of wicks do you want to use? Cotton, zinc, wood. There's just, again, all those variables, and you're going to have to do your research on that. Once you figure out what you want, then you'll be able to start figuring out who has what you want. And then once you figure that out, you can actually do some comparison shopping. Again, do your research, and where you buy it is going to be, again, a preference. But I am going to make the recommendation, try and buy as close to you as you can, because it's expensive with shipping costs. And then the last question is, how do I dispose of wax? And I'm going to tell you that that is a question that actually came to mind for me when I first poured my first candle, and I stood there with my pitcher and I said, what do I do with this? I can tell you, first of all, do not pour it down your drains, because you will coat the inside of your drains with wax, and that will be a very expensive cost for you down the road. Now, it's one thing to wash your items in your sink or your dishwasher after you've emptied all the excess wax out of them. I just had a glass Tupperware bowl that I poured it into, and what do you do with it? Great question. I have another video about making wax fire starters that you can do with the leftover recycled wax. You can make candles for yourself. I just read on a forum today that she just takes her leftover wax and pours it in a old test vessel that she cleaned out, and then she just fills it up. And when she lights it at some point, she just gets different scents, because every layer is a different scent. So that's totally up to you, but do not pour it down your drain. I don't suggest pouring it down the sewer or in your yard either. Just me, just saying. Well, that's it for today. I just wanted to kind of have an informal chat with you about some questions. And that's it. That's all I've got for today. Lots of questions and answers and chit chat. So If you liked our conversation today, don't forget to click on my subscribe button, become part of my channel, and click on that little bell to get notified as new videos get posted every week. And leave me any comments, shoot me your questions. I'm sure I'll be doing another chit chat session down the road. And what's worked for you, what hasn't, let's talk, be part of the community, and don't forget to live your life out loud. Just try and learn something new every day and help somebody else learn something new too. Take care. I'll see you next time.